This is part two of Lydia's story, how she came forward, how and why she converted to Judaism, and how she began speaking out.
And then I met my husband to be, Bill, and I moved out at 17 and got a job as a nurse's aide at Good Samaritan Hospital. My aunt got me the job. She knew the director of nurses, and she introduced me, and my aunt didn't know any of this. I never told anybody. I never told a soul. But now I'm going to tell. I wrote my book. I've done some public speaking. My kids know. They don't like it. It all came from my dad, and it's going to go. I'm going to tell it. I married Bill. We were married for 44 years, and I worked hard. We had 5 children, and I did all the work at home. They didn't have disposable diapers in those days, and I couldn't afford them anyway. I washed diapers, and I had a hard time. And I went to a baccalaureate meeting at Clackamas High School. I had a nephew graduating, and I went on his behalf. And as I sat there, a minister came out on the stage. And before he gave his talk to the class, he quoted a scripture from Deuteronomy chapter 8. All the commandments which I command you this day shall ye observe and do, that ye might live and multiply, and go in and possess the land which the Lord appeared unto your fathers. And the Lord chastened thee. All the commandments I command you this day shall ye observe and do, that ye might live and multiply, and go in and possess the land which the Lord swore unto your fathers. And thou shalt remember all the way which the Lord thy God led thee these 40 years in the wilderness, to humble thee and to prove thee, to know what was in thine heart, whether thou wouldest keep thy commandments or no. And he humbled thee, and suffered thee to hunger, and fed thee with manna which thou knewest not, neither did thy fathers know, that he might make thee know that man doth not live by bread only, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of the Lord doth man live. Thy raiment waxed not old upon thee, neither did thy foot swell these 40 years. Thou shalt also consider in thine heart, that as a man chasteneth his son, so the Lord thy God chasteneth thee. Therefore thou shalt remember the Lord thy God, to walk in his ways, and to fear him. For the Lord thy God bringeth thee into a good land, a land of brooks of water, of fountains in depths that spring out of valleys and hills, a land of wheat and barley and vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of oil, olive, and honey, a land wherein thou shalt eat bread without scarceness. Thou shalt not lack anything in it, a land whose stones are iron, and out of whose hills thou mayest dig brass. When thou hast eaten and art full, then thou shalt bless the Lord thy God for the good land which he hath given thee. Be aware that thou forget not the Lord thy God, in not keeping his commandments, and his judgments, and his statutes, which I command thee this day, lest when thou hast eaten and art full, and hast built goodly houses and dwelt therein, and when thy herds and thy flocks multiply, and thy silver and thy gold has multiplied, and all that thou hast is multiplied, then thine heart be lifted up, and thou forget the Lord thy God, which brought thee forth out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage. And I felt I was moved by that speech. And when he got through, that minister said some strange words. He said, somehow as I look out over this graduating class, I have the feeling I'm talking to someone of great destiny. I don't know whether it's someone in the graduating class or someone in the audience. Some man, woman, boy, or girl. I just had that feeling. And then he shook himself and he gave his sermon. But I didn't hear a word he said. I thought God spoke to me. So when I got home, I went in my bedroom. I closed the door. I knelt down by my bed, and I said, I don't know what you want me to do, Lord, but whatever it is, I'll do it. Time went on, And then a year, I was so overworked, and I got involved with a doctor emotionally. Well, I never crossed the line. He would have crossed the line, but I wouldn't. I couldn't do it. And so I had a nervous breakdown. I went up to the school acting strange, and then I came back home, and there was an ambulance in the driveway. I went to Holiday Park Psychiatry Center, and I blabbed everything. They put me in this tub, and I blabbed everything that had ever happened to me, and all the feelings I had. But I didn't ever cross the line with any guy, except my husband. And anyway, I went back home, and I took a year to recover. But I became very interested in Judaism. I was a Christian, and I went regularly, and I studied the Bible, and I never marked my Bible. I don't believe in it, but I memorized it. And so time went on, and Bill got heart disease, and I got my education as an RN. I went to LPN school, and then I went farther, and I finally got my degree as an RN at Linfield College School of Nursing at 55 years old or something. And Bill said to me, "You have a gift. You should do something with it." And he had never recognized me before, but I was criticized by two women, a minister's wife and my brother-in-law's second wife after his wife died. They said, "You're putting yourself above your husband." But my husband encouraged me to do it. And when I went out speaking and traveling, he would sit in the front row and just beam. It didn't bother him. I mean, he was proud of me. But anyway, I knew I wanted to tell my story. I felt God called me to tell my story. But I didn't tell it then. But in Bill's illness in the middle 70s, I canceled the group that I was with for my speaking engagements, and I would quote Bible and a lot of things. And I traveled like to Nevada and different places. And then in 1975, Bill died in December 26th, the day after Christmas. And we buried him in a year, and I'd been attending synagogue regularly. And Bill was born Jewish, but he was raised a Christian like his father. But his mother only went to church for children's programs. And so Bill encouraged me to pursue Judaism. He said, "That's what you're interested in." And he wanted to go at the end, but I couldn't take him when he got up the nerve that he would go, because he was total care, and I couldn't handle it. And so I talked to him and told him things. And after he died, I buried him in a day, and I went and said Kaddish. I said it at Neve Shalom Synagogue. And a Jewish friend took me, and she had had me over for Passover dinners, and I attended Neve Shalom Synagogue regularly. And then I changed to Sherry Torah, which is a little more orthodox. Rabbi Geller was the rabbi there. And everybody thought I was Jewish because I was there all the time. But I was getting some tutoring for Hebrew. I was taking a year of Hebrew. And I let the tutor know that I slipped and said something that let him know I wasn't Jewish. He said, "I thought you were Jewish." I said, "Well, I've never converted because of my family." And he said, "Well, if your children want to be Christians, they can be Christians. But faith is a personal matter. And if if you want to be Jewish, you should be Jewish. And so it gave me the courage to walk down to Rabbi Geller's office. And I wanted to talk to him, and he was running out because he had to go for something. And he said, "What is it?" I said, "I want to talk to you about conversion." He said, "Oh, it's my pleasure, it's my pleasure. I'll put you in my next class." And so I converted with Rabbi Geller. It was his last conversion class before he retired after 55 years. And he had us draw names. There were 5 women. And we drew twice. He said, "It's more fair that way." The first time I drew a 3. And then we put them all back in and shuffled them. And I said, "I think I'm going to be last." He said, "You don't know you'll be last. You could be first." I said, "I know I can be first, but I think I'll be last." So we all drew, and I drew number 5. And so he went around and asked everybody what they drew. And they all said 1, 2, 3. And he said, "You drew 4 to me?" I said, "No, I drew 5. He said, "Well, you said you'd be last, you're last." And he told everybody at the mikveh that I said I'd be last, and I was last. Last was supposed to be best. I don't know why. The first shall be last, and the last shall be first. Nothing is impossible. So anyway, that kind of concludes how I became a Jew. And I go to synagogue regularly. I'm involved in Jewish contributions. Too much. I had to cut down. And I'll stay a Jew, and I bought my cemetery plot. I'll be buried a Jew, and the kids know it, and the rabbi knows it. And I have a contract at the synagogue. And I can have 2 of my grandchildren be pallbearers, because I asked Rabbi Geller. He said, "You have a lot of grandchildren?" I said, "Yes." He said, "You can pick 2 of your grandsons, to be pallbearers, and then pick some Jewish friends to do the rest." And I thought it was nice, and my son will speak. And I have a granddaughter. I want her to speak, and then I'll have Jewish people speak. I'll be dead, but that's the way it's going to be.
And what prompted you to start speaking and start sharing your story beyond the breakdown?
After Bill died, I took a year of Hebrew at Portland State University. And I felt then that I should start telling my story. So I was looking for an oral historian, and somebody in the Hebrew class referred me to Joella Werlin. She's Jewish. She goes to the Reformed synagogue, but she's Jewish. And I don't know how she is now. I haven't talked to her lately. But her husband was very ill, and she put him in this care center. She wrote the first book for me. I quoted what I wanted, and she wrote it professionally. And it was question and answer. And then I wanted to do it better. So I asked Joella Werlin if she knew somebody that could take it farther. And she referred me to Bruce Washburn out of state. I can't remember what state, Michigan or Minnesota or somewhere. And I went there and stayed a week. And he taped me, and he wrote a book.
You can buy Feet Running in Bear by Lydia Wakefield Hubbard by contacting Louise Bouchard at gmail.com. If you want Lydia to speak at your event, which she would love to do, once again, contact Louise Bouchard at louisebouchard@gmail.com. This video was filmed and edited by Virginia Jones. If you want to share your story, please contact her at compassion500@gmail.com. Thank you for watching.